The naval Battle of Hansan Island, also known as the Battle of Hansando, took place on July 8, 1592, near the Korean island of Hansan. Korean Admiral Yi Sun-sin destroyed at least 47 Japanese ships, captured 12. This battle is also the first in Admiral Yi's third naval campaign. The battle, one of the three great battles won by Joseon during the Imjin War, carried great import, because Joseon's forces now came to dominate the southern seas. After Hansando, Toyotomi Hideyoshi ordered the Japanese Navy to avoid direct engagement with the Joseon Navy and instead station itself in fortifications along the coast to defend important sea lands. Prelude. Admiral Yi Sun-shin, along with the small fleet of 7 ships of Admiral Won-guan, had fought 2 campaigns across the southern coast of Korea. Admiral Yi Okaki joined Admirals Yi and Won for the third campaign. In all, the Koreans sank over 60 Japanese ships. Admiral Yi and the combined Korean fleet did not lose any ships and suffered only 11 killed and 26 wounded up to this point. Given the importance that the Japanese Navy had in supplying the army as it advanced along the Korean peninsula and prepared to invade China, Toyotomi Hideyoshi made it absolutely imperative to his commanders that the naval situation must be brought under control, the Korean fleets destroyed and the supply routes through the Yellow Sea secured. The Japanese commander, Wakazaka Yasuharu, was ordered to wait and combine his fleet with the forces of Kato Yoshiaki and Kuki Yoshitaka to seek out and destroy the Korean fleet. However, it would have taken some time for Kato and Kuki to assemble their ships, so Wakazaka went out alone with 73 ships. Out of the 73 ships, 36 were the large multi-decked Attribution, 24 the medium-sized Seikibuna and 13 small Kobe scout ships. The fleet is the elite of the Japanese Navy. In the meantime, Admiral Yi was planning a third campaign and worked with Admirals Won and Yi Okaki in combined operations and practiced arranging their fleets in a crane's wing battle formation. The formation was often used on land, but not normally used at sea. The combined fleets had a total of 54 panixions and 2 or 3 turtle ships. The battle. First phase. Admiral Yi received intelligence from a local farmer that a large Japanese fleet was making its way west towards him and was anchored north of the Gyeoneriang Strait, a narrow channel between Gyeoye Island and the mainland. On July 8, the next morning, Admiral Yi sent out 6 panixion battleships through the channel to lure out Wakazaka's fleet. Wakazaka took the bait and his ships chased Yi's 6 panixions through the channel and into the broad open sea in front of Hansan Island. Wakazaka saw Admiral Yi's fleet before him and pressed to engage the Koreans. At that time, Admiral Yi began to arrange the fleet in the crane wing formation. Crane wing formation. In the 2 previous campaigns, the Koreans had either met the Japanese ships in a straight battle line or, if space was limited, with a circular or rolling method of attack, where their ships attacked in relays to sustain a continuous bombardment. Although these tactics were effective, considerable numbers of Japanese had escaped and swum ashore. The crane wing formation, also known as the Hajikujin, was designed to not just sink ships, but to annihilate the enemy without losing a lot of men. The formation itself resembled a U-shape, with the heaviest battleships in the center and lighter ships on the wings. There was a turtle ship at the end of each side, anchoring the flanks. Reserves were placed behind the central ships and would plug gaps as the formation expanded. Ships at the front of the formation would face broadsides to maximize the number of cannons that would be aimed at the enemy. Furthermore, the U-shape itself would allow for interlocking fields of fire so that many Japanese ships would be enfiladed and hit from several angles. In this sense, the crane wing formation shared similarities with the late 19th and early 20th century battleship tactic of crossing the T. The Japanese tactic was to put their fastest ships in the vanguard to keep the Korean ships occupied. then moved their larger ships rapidly to close in, grapple, and board the Korean ships. However, this tactic played right into Admiral Yi's plan, as the Japanese rode deeper into the trap. The volume and range of Korean cannon fire prevented the Japanese from employing their favorite tactic, and the two wings of the crane formation would envelop, surround and finally have the effect of crowding in the Japanese ships, making it difficult to maneuver or retreat and packing in the ships and present an easier target for Korean cannons. Second phase. Wakazaka Yasuharu was a highly aggressive commander and one of the legendary Seven Spears of Shizugatake, having gained fame in the battle that solidified Hideyoshi's claim to be Oda Nobunaga's successor. It is clear from his tactics in the Battle of Hansan Island that Wakazaka tried to get as close as possible to the Korean ships so he could have his men grapple and board them, which was a traditional Japanese naval tactic. Wakazaka not only followed the 6 decoy Korean ships through the Kyoneryang Strait with his entire fleet of 73 ships into the ambush, but pressed as quickly as possible into the center of the crane wing formation, oblivious to the fact that he was exposing his ships and his flanks to the Korean fleet's concentrated and longer-range firepower. The battle continued from the mid-morning to the late afternoon. Korean sailors boarded some of the Japanese ships, but Admiral Yi only allowed it if the ship was already crippled and damaged. Wakazaka Yasuharu's commanders, Wakazaka Sabe and Watanabe Shichimon, were killed. Commander Manabe Samanosuke committed seppuku aboard his burning, sinking ship. Wakazaka Yasuharu himself was hit by several arrows, but none penetrated his armor. After losing 59 ships, Wakazaka abandoned his flagship and boarded a faster, lighter ship. In total, 14 Japanese ships were able to retreat from the immediate area of the battle. However, many of the surviving ships were damaged so badly that they had to be abandoned in some of the surrounding islands that dotted the southern Korean coast. Only a few ships ever made it back to the Japanese base at Busan Harbor. Impact. It is clear that Toyotomi Hideyoshi regarded these losses as unacceptable. It is also clear that he now doubted the ability of his navy to overcome Korean resistance in southern waters and establish the much-needed supply route around the southwestern tip of the peninsula and north through the Yellow Sea. On August 23 he ordered Naval Commander Todo Takatora forward from Iki Island to reinforce his colleagues in Korea. In dispatched orders to Busan halting naval operations along the southern coast. Yi Sun-shin's victories in the battles of Hansando and Angulpo have been described as one of the main factors leading to the ultimate failure of Toyotomi Hideyoshi's campaign to take Korea and conquer China. As things currently stood, there were fewer than 30,000 Japanese troops in the north, not nearly enough to slash their way to Beijing. Hideyoshi launched his invasion with the clear intention of sending these reinforcements north by ships via the Yellow Sea. Therefore, Yi Sun-shin was not merely making a nuisance of himself off to one side. In stopping the Japanese Navy's westward advance, he had thrust a wrench into the heart of Hideyoshi's war machine. In the coming weeks and months, the Japanese would encounter other obstacles in Korea, principally the arrival of large numbers of Chinese troops and determined resistance from local guerrilla fighters. The route at sea, however, would remain the first serious setback in their planned invasion of the mainland, and as such possibly the most important one, for in blocking the flow of reinforcements, it significantly weakened the Japanese land forces and in turn rendered them that much more vulnerable in the land battles to come. International recognition. George Alexander Ballard, a Vice Admiral of British Royal Navy, complimented Admiral Yi's winning streaks by the Battle of Hansando highly. This was the great Korean admiral's crowning exploit. In the short space of 6 weeks, actually about 9 weeks, May 7, 1592, July 7, 1592, he had achieved a series of successes unsurpassed in the whole annals of maritime war, destroying the enemy's battle fleets, cutting his lines of communication, sweeping up his convoys, imperiling the situation of his victorious armies in the field, and bringing his ambitious schemes to utter ruin.